In today's video, I'll be sharing with you this script. I'll be going over all of the steps in detail for creating this dome with a projected pattern. So if you're interested in parametric design and parametric modeling and learning a few more tricks, this is going to be a perfect video for you. So with that being said, thank you very much for being here, and let's jump right into the tutorial. All right, so the first thing we're going to bring in is going to be a point. So let's go here to construct point. I'll route it through an empty point component so we can change that location if we need to. And now with this, we'll start by moving it in the X direction. We'll bring in a slider. Now we'll also be bringing this up in the Z direction. So I'll copy down these two and replace the X with a Z vector. We can decrease this a little bit more. Maybe lower the limit to, let's say, 100. Now I'll bring in an arc component. This is going to be an arc 3 points. So we'll start with this point. That's point A. Then we have point C. And now we need to create the height of it. So the way that we can do this is create a point between these two, or we can create a point between these two and then move it up. And I think that's better because that'll give us a little bit more control. So now that we have this point and this point, we can create the average between those two. And this is actually going to create a midpoint between those 2 points right here. And now we can copy the Z component with the move and replace the point with this point. So now we have the way to control the arc of that circle. So let's use that as point B to create that segment. Now let's increase this a little bit more. Let's go to 60. Let's go here to 30. And if we go to 30, that's going to be in between 60 and 0, which makes it just a regular line, which is okay if we need to. But we can change this to create more control. And depending on what type of design you want, this is going to give you that variability. So let's create 42 on this one. Now we need to create a line segment between this one and the first point that we moved up. So let's create a line segment between starting point and the center point at the top. The reason for that is because we need to create a revolve. That's the revolution component. And we can use this line segment as the axis, the curve as the arc, and that's going to give us kind of that dome shape that we can change using this. So this helps us visualize it a little bit better. The next step, what we're going to do is create a circle on the ground here. So we'll go here to circle component, use the first point as the plane input, and then use the X vector. We don't have to use actually the vector, we can just use the number as the radius. This will give us a circle that is the same size as the overall width of this. And now we're going to take this and go to divide surface. Now this is a circle which is closed, which can be also defined here as a surface if we go to boundary surfaces. But we actually don't need to turn it into a surface for it to subdivide this in the U and V. So now you see these are kind of overlapping with everything, so I'll hide the display. We don't have some overlaps there. And we can change the subdivision. So if I went here to say 3 less than 20, this will give us a slider that starts at 3 and ends at 20. And I'll create 2 of these for the U and V and be able to change the number of subdivisions either way. Now we can just use 1 if we want to, and this will create a regularly spaced grid, but this will give you a little bit more control. So let's go here to 15. Now with this, I'm going to be creating some polygons at those points. So we'll plug in the points into the plane input. And then here for the segments, we can change what type of polygon it is. So the smallest polygon you can create is 3, and then we'll go less than 12. So when you create 3, it's going to create those triangles here. But we can always change that to be whatever other type of polygon. So we'll go here to 4. And then let's change the radius. So let's go here to 12.00. This will give us a little bit more precise of a number that we can use to change the size of this. And let's try that. Now notice that the pattern is actually staying inside of the circle. We want that to be larger. So maybe we'll do a radius. So if this number is 120, we'll do 120 plus. And then we'll bring in another slider, let's say like 60.00. And this will let us increase the size of that circle using that number as the base number. So now we're going a little bit too far, so we can decrease this a little bit to make sure that we cover all of the entire circle here. And I'll hide this one as well. All right, next we're going to take these polygons and project them up. So let's go here to project. And there's different ways to project, but this is going to be project a curve onto a B-rep. So this is going to be the polygon, the curves that we're going to project, and the B-rep is going to be that surface. Trying to keep this organized here. So now that we have this, we can hide the points and everything else. And now we can see how this changes overall. Now we have 4, but we can go back out to 6 and then see how this overall creates a different pattern. Let's go to 8. I think this is going to look good. And we can also increase the size of this and then decrease the number of subdivisions. So if we went to, let's say 10, and then decrease the size of this, this will also help us maintain the model not being so computationally intense. The reason why is because the less geometry you have, the easier it'll be to calculate. You can always increase the density later on. So now with this, let's go to split or surface split. And we'll be using these curves and this surface to split the surface. Now notice how the information is organized here. This is a grafted set, which means that they're all individual sets, and it's doing it for as many curves as it has, so 69 times. Now, if we flatten this, notice that it looks at it all as one list, and then it actually works for us because we only have one surface. So now with this, now we have all of these segments as individual segments that we can select. So let's go here to a list item to pick one of them. And notice that we can pick these as individual surfaces that have been split using these curves. Now, the reason why we did that is because now we're going to take those and join them again. And it seems a little bit counterintuitive to split something and then join it again. But once we split it, now we're going to turn this into a wireframe. And if we have this surface being, let me hide this first. If we have this surface being separate than this one, then we have, for this surface, we have a line segment. And for this surface, we have a line segment, which will make us have redundant lines. But when you join it, like this, now it's all joined, and these are just creases within a surface, which means that there's only one line that is corresponding to both of these. So with this, we'll go to brep edges. And now we can separate between the outside naked curves and the interior curves. And we can use either a multi-pipe or a regular pipe. So we'll start with the regular pipe so I can show you how both of these work. So we'll create the caps for the pipes are going to be round. So we have a clean end for the intersections. So let's plug in both of the naked curves and the interior curves into one. So holding down Shift, you can add more than one. And notice that it's taking a while because it actually has a lot of different line segments for this. Now, if we have more subdivisions, it's going to take way longer. The way for it to be a little bit faster is using sub-D multi-pipe, and that tends to be a little bit faster. So using both the naked and interior curves, we'll plug both of them in. And what's great about this component is that it actually creates really clean connections between everything here. So one way that we can make sure that we have this be efficient is doing this. We're going to go back before the surface is turned into, let's go here. Before it's the curves that create the entire pattern is plugged into the split, we're going to create something called a data dam. So this is something that will help how efficient your model is, and also for you to visualize what it's going to look like before you do all of these other steps of splitting and then turning it into pipes. So here we'll go to data dam, and we will plug in the curves into data A into this one. And notice that now, not until we click the play button or the start, the data is not going to run through here, which means that it's not going to be split. And so one of the things I like to do is to make sure that before I know what the pattern looks like, I can go in here and change all of this and see exactly what I want, even decrease the number of subdivisions. So let's go here to 5. Play around with the pattern. Say something like this. Change the offset here. Maybe 5 is too little. We'll just go to 8 and 8. Increase the offset. Go here to 100 and then change the size for this. So let's go to something like this. Now, when I click on the play button, you'll see that now it goes through and does the rest of the work. So now let's go here to the multi-pipe and let's change some of the sizes. So we'll go here 2.0000. I like to have a lot of control with these sliders, and we'll create a few different ones. The first one is going to be for the strut size. The next one is going to be for the end offset. And the next one is going to be for the node size. So notice that the node size is maybe a little bit too much, so we can decrease that. Decrease this one. And then go up using the strut size and then play around until you get something like something that you like. So let's increase this to 100. Let's see. This one as well. So I'm just changing some of these sliders here to see if I get a better result than what I have here. The other thing is we do have this segment here. So that is something that could be removed by looking at all of the items and picking that out. Now, let's take a look at what it would look like here by just taking these projected line segments and also including, so let's go here to a curve component. Plug that in. Let's take this one into from that circle. And it's going to be the circle before it gets offset. So let's move this down. Copy this one and just use the input from the X value into the radius here. So on this one, it's going to be a lot easier to do a pipe. Now let's flatten the output so we know it's just one set of line segments. And then we can use a different set of pipes for the outside. So this is another way to get, let's hide all of this stuff. This is another way to get the pattern that is going to be projected onto the surface. It's just not going to have, it's going to be a bit different because here you have them overlapping. Now, sometimes that's not a big deal, but the issue that we're having with this one is that it does have this line segment that gets in the way. So with these two different options, we can have the outside be controlled by slider. So let's go here to 2.0. And then let's go here to 4 for the outside, maybe 3. And we can see how it changes. Now, once again, here, we could do a data dam. Between these. So if we change, so we'll preview this one. So if we ever change the size of this and we say, okay, we like this pattern. Now the data that came out of this one changes, which means that this gets disabled, and now you can press play. And now it gets enabled. So let's go back to a different pattern here. Let's hide these. Let's increase the subdivisions. To something like this. Let's enable data dam. Now let's take a look at the result. So this is just one set of options. We can always play around with the type of polygon. We can play around with the size and shape of the dome. But I just wanted to go through all of the steps here to show you 2 different options. This is going to be using regular pipes. This is going to be going through using multi-pipe. So this is going to be option 1. But this will be option 2. So I'm grouping this, option 2, which has some issues. Like we said, it has that line segment here. And then on this one, it's going to be option 1. And the issues with this one is the connections in between those two. So this option, I'm going to disable. And I'll have this one enabled so you can see it. If you want to download the script, it'll be working. So now let's go over the steps here of how we're going to organize this. So this is going to be the dome radius. This is going to be the height. And I like to group these so you can know exactly which ones you need to change. This one is going to be the arc height. This is going to be the pattern offset. This is going to be the U and the V for the subdivisions. Then we have the radius, polygon radius, and polygon type. Make sure to enable data dam. So also make sure to show that. And this is going to be interior, or yeah, this is going to be frame. And then we'll group these. Same with this, I'll ungroup that and just group this. And then go option 2. This is going to be option 1. This is going to be the pipe. So this is connection 1 and connection 2. Now I did see one more thing that I want to do with this, which is this. So here we have one type of pattern. I think we could overlap patterns here. So if you have, so let's hide this first. So what if you have this pattern and then you want to create another pattern just like it to overlap with this pattern? So let me show you what I mean. So what if the radius, let's say it's for this one, let's say it's like this, and then you want another one. So I'll take these and copy them. But then you want another one that's using the same numbers, but let's say the radius is a little bit different. So it kind of truncates and creates a further subdivision with a different number. Then could we use these two? So this is already one set of pipes, but then this could be a smaller set of pipes. On the inside. So I'll press play here to enable that. I'll press play on this one to enable these. But then this one, maybe it could be 0.5. Right? Or maybe 1. Or maybe even the same size, right? So this is just something that could be useful. I wanted to share with you all of the steps here. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll have this available for you to download. The other thing is you don't have to enable this one. This could be just disabled. Same with this. But this gives you another layer of subdivisions if you want to. Let's disable preview and then preview again. Now, lastly, let's just make this option 3. Lastly, what I want to do, let's make this option 2 and then this option 3. That makes more sense. Last thing I want to do is give it some color. So we'll go here to custom preview so we can visualize this a little bit better. Use a color swatch. This is for the interior, so maybe we'll make that 50. For the frame, we'll make this 25. And then for the interior part, maybe the same color as the frame, or it could just be maybe even darker, 15. Or maybe lighter. Let's go to 75. I think darker looks better. Maybe all of them could be the same color. All right, so hopefully you found that useful. I've gone over initially how to create the dome shape. That could be useful in its own way. Then creating a grid on the circle, creating a set of polygons on that grid that is then projected up, first subdivided to create this pattern. Now, I don't think that this pattern looks like that good, so we can almost remove that. And that's why I disabled it. But here you see projecting one pattern and then maybe projecting another pattern that overlaps with that pattern using similar numbers. That can look something like this. So thank you for being here. You can download this on my website. And yeah, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one.